Canada, a nation with a history that is not known to many, had some of its greatest moments in the period of time from 1815 to 1911. Now, we will go back in history and examine some of the most crucial events in our nation's history. We begin in 1838 when a lord by the name of Durham was sent by Britain to investigate the reasons and causes of the rebellions in Upper and Lower Canada the year before. He began his investigation in Lower Canada, questioning rebellion partakers.
So why do you participate in the rebellion?
We started the rebellions because we wanted responsible government. We weren't involved in government enough. The government made decisions without us saying anything, or we didn't support their idea. And we were
Durham then traveled to Upper Canada and questioned the rebels there.
Thank you very much. So why do you decide to participate in the rebellion?
Well, I was a follower of Mr. William Mackenzie, and I believed him when he told us that the government was having too much power, so I decided to follow him when he started the rebellion.
After acquiring all the information he needed, he pondered over a solution for the two colonies.
How can I solve these issues in the colonies?
His idea became what is known today as the Durham Report. That idea and others were presented to the British government.
Now, Lower Canada. And I also have Upper Canada. Now if I put them together, take these two out. Province of Canada. Voila!
Eventually, Durham's report was acted upon by the British government and became the Act of Union in 1841. This act was the first step towards the Confederation of Canada, and the act covered the solutions in the Durham Report. On September 1st, 1864, the maritime colonies decided to meet in Charlottetown to propose their grand idea of uniting the Atlantic colonies. Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and New Brunswick all attended. Newfoundland did not attend the conference because they felt they had little in common with the people of the United Province of Canada. Macdonald, Brown, and Cartier seized this opportunity to propose their ideas at the meeting.
Okay, so I guess we will have to have a railway connecting all the provinces.
Each province will have equal rights when it comes to industry.
Splendid ideas. Shall we adjourn and meet again in Quebec City in a month?
Excellent.
Sure, why not?
Let's go.
The parties adjourned and met again in October in Quebec City, where they came up with the 70 resolutions, which were major ideas from each of the parties.
Okay, so I guess we will have a federal government, a central government, who has more power, and the provincial governments will have less power.
The federal parliament should have an upper and lower house.
That's a good idea. The lower house will be called the House of Commons, and who are elected by the civilians and everyone. And the upper will be the Senate of appointed members.
Yes, and each region, Canada East, Canada West, and Atlantic Canada, will have 24 senators each.
Most importantly, we must put peace and order before selfish motives when it comes to our government.
That's excellent, gentlemen. We have just completed our 72 resolutions.
Excellent.
With the 72 resolutions set, they traveled to London, where they presented this document to the British government. On May 22, 1867, this document was passed as the BNA Act, and on July 1, 1867, Queen Victoria proclaimed Canada a nation.
By her order, Majesty Queen Victoria, I officially proclaim this Dominion of Canada under the leadership of Prime Minister John A. Macdonald.
And with that, Canada became its own nation. In the prairies during the late 1800s, a Métis man by the name of Louis Riel had a huge impact on the dream of John A. Macdonald and his wish of a country from coast to coast. Louis Riel was an influential person who is known today as the father of Manitoba. During his life, he did many things for his fellow Métis, especially as the leader of the Métis. In 1869, the Red River settlement, where Riel grew up, was in danger of being overtaken by British pioneers, as well as the government's sluggish work in surveying the Métis land into legal rights. Ensuing, Riel blocked out the new Lieutenant Governor of Rupert's Land to take charge and set up his own provisional government for the Red River settlement. This resistance by Riel and the Métis led to the Métis List of Rights, as deemed by Prime Minister Macdonald, and the Manitoba Act a year later. Riel would flee to the United States after fear of an advancing Canadian military into Red River. Riel would return in 1885 to do what he did in Red River, but this time in the Northwest. In the Northwest, Métis there faced similar problems with land, and a provisional government was set up there as well. This time, an armed uprising occurred. On July 2nd, the 90-day Northwest resistance ended with the surrender of Big Bear, a First Nation chief who assisted with Riel's resistance. Riel was taken to Regina and tried for treason. He was convicted and was hanged on November 16, 1885.
Louis Riel, you have been charged as guilty by the jury for your part in the Northwest Resistance. And the penalty is death by hanging. Executioner, take it away.
Riel's hanging sparked a huge conflict between English and French Canadians, with the government in the middle. Now, over 100 years later, Riel is recognized for his actions in the resistance as contributing to the growth of our nation. As we move closer to home, our own province has a history that played a part in building our history and the dream of a nation from coast to coast. British Columbia is the most westerly province in that dream, and its development was based on a rush for quick riches and a train that brought everything together. In 1857, a Hudson Bay Company trader had panned out some gold dust and nuggets from a bank on the Thompson River. Less than a year later, miners from near and far had arrived in the Fraser River in search for instant riches. With fear of an American overrun, the mainland joined with the island to form a more powerful colony of British Columbia. In the new colony, the government saw the rush as a way to make money, so they built a road in which miners could take up to the gold fields and follow back down into gold offices where they taxed gold leaving the colony. The road was known as the Caribou Wagon Road and stretched from Yale to Barkerville. By the end of the gold rush, a huge debt had been piled up by the colony from the construction of the Caribou Road. Canada offered the colony to pay off those debts in exchange for Confederation. On July 20th, 1871, British Columbia joined Canada and was promised, on top of the money to cover their debts, a railroad linking them to the rest of Canada. After BC joined Confederation, Macdonald sent out surveyors to investigate the interior of BC. The investigation found two routes that were very popular. One was through the central interior and across to the island, and the other was down the Fraser Canyon, ending at Burrard Inlet. In 1878, 19 other routes in addition to the ones mentioned were in consideration. In the end, the route that was chosen is the route on which today's CPR runs through, down the Fraser Canyon and into Burrard Inlet. When building of the railroad began, there were discrepancies on the final station. Originally, Port Moody at the end of the inlet was chosen, but later, in 1884, a man by the name of William Van Horn traveled further down the inlet in search of deeper water for a dock and decided that the CPR would end in Gastown, near the mouth of the inlet. This area Van Horn chose eventually became the city of Vancouver, and the railroad is what we know today as the Canadian Pacific Railroad.
Bueller, 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 Bueller,